I'm a fan of fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
That's right. That means it's another Wednesday night. And this is a Fantasy Fan Sportscast. Just one of the great shows on the Sportscrew Radio Network. And be sure to follow them on iTunes and Twitter at Sportscrew Radio. Sportscrew Radio Network, creating sports, fantasy sports, DFS, gambling content 24/7. thesportscrew.com. Because I got like 900 shows now on that network. And that should not be a reason not to go. I will tell you that right now. You should still go, even though I do have multiple shows, because, all the other shows are the same as this one. I just talk and make fun of the experts and do all that. And speaking of my not an expert, just some weather guy out there. Here, Chris Allen. Good evening, sir.
How we doing?
I'm doing fine. Like I said, before we went on there, I haven't been to a doctor in 7 years, and I had to go to a doctor this week. We'll see. Hopefully I'm here next week. That's all I got to say.
Okay. I hope so.
Yeah. Right. I mean,
let me know if you're not going to be here next week.
Oh, you need advance warning?
I'd prefer it.
Okay,
I feel like that's the least you could do.
If you just turn off, because you're pretty good at being here at 10 o'clock. And
yes,
if you click at 10 and go, wait a minute, where's Easy? Where's Mark?
Well, take that back. Cause I get the link for the StreamYard like maybe 5-10 minutes beforehand. So if I don't get a text from you, then I know something's up.
All right. Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'll be here next week.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the week after. It's hard to say.
That's where it's hard to.
Right. Now we're really getting down the rabbit hole. But we'll be all right. We're here to talk football. We're here to talk a little bit about week 5, what's going to happen to week 6. But I'm excited. We've had this discussion before. I love the 9:30 Sunday morning football. I'm already pumped for it. I was mad we didn't have it last week when we had a London game. They had that, it's like 6:30 crap in London. So they played at 1 o'clock our time. But this week, here on the East Coast anyway, 9:30 football. I'm excited. What about you? Are you excited for 9:30 football?
We'll see how it goes. It's just like I'm normally getting like DFS lineups like finalized and doing some last minute tinkering on that stuff. So normally like I'm still in that mode. I'm not ready for football that early yet. So but it'll be fun to sit down and catch a little bit of action that early in the morning. So we'll see how it goes.
All right. It's Panthers, Buccaneers. So there's
a lot of fantasy implications.
There's fantasy stuff. And the thing about the London stuff is you never know.
Yeah.
For a while it was all defensive games. And then lately they've been offensive games.
Right.
So I don't know. Pretty exciting. Obviously it's so exciting. Jump right over the Thursday night game. Which I don't know. That's a hard one to take in right there. If you were the best team, you were supposed to have a somewhat tough schedule the next year. It really seems like the NFL didn't quite follow through on that. The Patriots do seem to every week another cupcake, and the Giants don't have like anyone even playing. And
right at this point, it is. Yeah.
Is there anybody on the Giants that even Tate? He would be the only person, right? And you wouldn't even play him at this point.
Right, because that's where the fantasy adage that volume is king. But not all volume is created equally, right? Like a pass from Daniel Jones is not the same as getting a pass from Russell Wilson. So even if we can project Golden Tate to get, he's probably the only one getting touches, right? It's either him or Darius Slayton.
He's got to be triple team too, I think, because
it's just like what do you really expect out of that game? Right. So even if he does it's going to be like 10 targets for 10 yards,
right?
So
I agree. I wouldn't start anyone on this.
No, it's just not worth it. Even from a volume perspective, it's hard for me to get behind playing any of them.
What worries me about the Patriots a little bit I know they're not normally a team that takes their foot off, but listen to a few other shows and read a few things. They actually do more than we think. If they get up really, really big, they're still going to try to score, but they will run the ball more. They'll do a few things, and again, it's the backfield there. You never know.
Weather should be a factor in this game too.
That's what it's like you read my notes. For you people that know that, me and Chris do not. That's what's unique about this show. Chris has no clue what I'm going to ask him. That's
my brand, though. Of course, one of the few games
right.
that would actually be like a primetime game that will be impacted by weather. If I'm going to be the expert of this show, I have to be up on this stuff, man.
That's right. Right. That's true. And they're saying a pretty good. It could even be wind involved, which is always, I think you've said in the past, wind is the issue more than rain sometimes.
Yeah, it's the combination of the two that really has my eyebrow raised on this one, because if the last I saw when I pulled some forecast data earlier today, I was seeing 17-mile-an-hour winds, which is like right on that threshold when things start to get bad. It's not horrific or anything like that.
You've always told me I thought around 20. When it gets close to 20.
Yeah, when it gets 20, that's when you start to pull some of your start looking for other options. But you couple that with the rain, and for rain, it's a little bit different because people say rain, you don't know what the difference is between maybe just a mist versus a full-on deluge. But
deluge. Man,
yeah, I know. I get fancy.
Words.
But
is that a big weather word?
Not really. But the thing that I'm looking for is the amount of volume per inches per hour, I guess, is the metric that they use, because I actually talked to some folks from AccuWeather about it. And if it's less than 0.0, it's like 0.01 to 0.03 inches per hour. That's basically just light misting and all that. Not a big deal. But once you get up to 0.1 inches per hour, that's when you start getting into the heavy rain area. And the forecast, at least for tomorrow, that I saw was 0.07, 0.08. So you're getting into that heavy rain where it's fairly similar to just constant rain throughout the entire game.
Right.
So if let's say, for instance, if people went out to they scrambled to pick up Mike Nugent after he got signed to be the Patriots kicker, I'm looking somewhere else, man.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that. Even Tom Brady, now, I think we have him. I think John Paulson over at 444, he has him as I don't know, probably QB6, QB7, something like that on the week. I have him in one league. I picked up Kyle Allen because I don't know. I'm honestly debating on switching off because I don't know what that team is going to wind up doing.
Right. So would you, fantasy wise, Sony Michel, I don't think we have Rex Burkhead, right? He's still injured.
Questionable. Last I saw, I think he practiced today on a limited basis. So it's sounding like
if he's coming back now, you have three backfield people. It would be tough to play any of them, maybe. But
yeah, that's why that's difficult, man.
I am glad I have none of the Patriots in any league. I always feel bad that I don't, but then I'm always glad I don't. It's just one of those where it's just too many questions. And there's a minute there where I thought, a week or so where White would be the guy, maybe he's the one to have with Sony Michel struggling. Then Sony Michel actually got the ball a little bit more last week.
Right.
I'm just glad I have none.
I took Tom Brady in the 13th round.
I heard a few podcasts, and again, I know they're not all weather experts on these other podcasts I've got, but I know a few of them were calling it a Josh Gordon game. But to me, the weather would affect that too, right? If Brady can't throw, he can't throw. I don't care if it's Josh Gordon or not.
Yeah, at that point, it doesn't matter. I think it was more from an opportunity standpoint.
And a matchup. Basically.
Yeah, and the matchup, because Josh Gordon, at least from an air yards perspective, I think he had the greatest, the most air yards. And with Philip Dorsett already being ruled out for tomorrow's game, Julian Edelman was grabbing his ribs during Sunday's game. It's more likely than not that he would be the least hurt out of all of them. But now with all this, I don't know.
Hard to say. Right. So I don't know. The Thursday games have been good. this isn't what I'm looking forward to, but I'll watch. No. I mean, I'm going to watch, and I'm going to watch the 9:30. Me and Lou here on the Sportscrew Radio Network do a sit-start show on Sunday mornings. Starts at 11:30. We're a half hour early. Last year we did 12 to 1. This year it's 11:30 to 12:30. So pretty much right when that game ends. So if that, we might not even get ended. We might have to roll right into the show when that game's going on. But
right.
Obviously you're going to have 4 teams that you already will know who to sit and start.
Right.
And like I said, Thursday, you might just not start any of them anyway. So it makes it a little hard. Which a question I was going to ask later, but because we kind of talked about it when I said, I'm glad I don't have any. A question I was going to ask you, what teams this year are you glad you don't have any of? I was amazed when I thought of that question, how many teams came to mind and how many I don't have any players of. I have no Pittsburgh players. I have no Cleveland players, which was rare because they were really hyped up preseason, but I am glad I don't have any at this point. Right. I don't have any Cincinnati players. I have no Jets players. I have no Washington Redskins players. And I have one Miami Dolphin. I have one team where I have Drake, and that's only because, I just, a low-end running back one on my bench just in case. Right. Those are all teams where early, the beginning of the season, you might have thought, well, 1 or 2 guys from those teams during draft time might be good to have. Am I wrong? Are those teams that you should be glad you don't have any of?
I wouldn't say glad, but it makes things less of a headache, right? Unless you have the premier players on that team. So like for the Jets, if you have anybody else other than Le'Veon Bell, forget about it.
That's not even paid off every week either. I mean,
he scored in PPR. I think he's his floor has been 15 points if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Last week he was off. But
it's not great for a first rounder.
Right.
I mean, you expect more of those blow up weeks, which I think he'd had in week 1 because I think he had he had so many receptions in week 1. He had 20 plus points, but I think the floor has still been solid for what you paid for him, so that's not too bad. Unless maybe the Dolphins. I guess the Dolphins are the only team, but I think everybody
in Washington. Who would you have wanted on Washington come draft day? I mean, I'm glad, and that's a mess now with
right. If it's not Haskins, now they went back to Case Keenum.
Geis before his injury.
Yeah,
because I think right now, him being healthy right now could be a good thing because I think they're going to do some stuff. Cincinnati, maybe Boyd. I mean, I'm not saying there's not players on every team. I'm just glad out of that group, I don't have any. And then, like I said, the Patriots is another one. I didn't even include them because I went down teams that are having issues. The Patriots aren't having issues, but I'm glad I don't have Patriots either. Just because to me, those are just too hard of decisions. I mean,
right.
And hey, part of fantasy should be fun, and part of it should not have to be making these kind of decisions every damn week.
Right.
Are there any other teams that you can think of that you would go, well, all right, I don't have any on that team, or that would be a team I might not want any players on. Am I missing any?
Not that I can think of offhand.
Even Jacksonville, right now, Fournette, you can't help but, want him. They're handing.
You wonder. I mean, Fournette's one of those ones you start him, you hold your nose and you start him because he's getting all the opportunity there. It's not like Raquel Armstead, is coming in and giving him taking over the third down or anything. He's getting everything. I mean, they're giving him everything he can handle.
I've been happy having him so far. Like I said, he's not. I have him and Gurley in a league. They're doing just enough. They're not making me disappoint. I'm not losing because of them. Now, am I winning big weeks with them? Well, actually, Fournette had 200 yards in one day.
So far it looks good.
But at the same time, they're not giving you those super big numbers. But like I said, those were the few teams. I mean, I'm trying to even think. Lions, they haven't been as well as we thought, but they've now had their bye. Let's see how they go. The Bears haven't done as much as we thought, But at the same time, I'd rather have Cohen or maybe Montgomery than some of these guys on the teams I just named.
Yeah.
Especially for the amount of money or the value you'd have paid for those guys versus,
Sure.
you know, some of the others. So, let's go back to last week. The last game of the week, being from Ohio. What's the deal with the Browns? Is that a problem? Is it a coaching issue, a game plan, just not as good as we thought? You know, obviously I'm hearing with, there's Browns fans are mad. Obviously the Bengals fans are making fun, and it's hard for us to make too much fun because we're 0 and, what are we only out of? We're only like 2 games out, right? Aren't the Bengals only 2 games out? 3 games?
No, because
3 games now.
Yeah, because the Ravens they've won
3 and 2.
Yeah, they're 3 and 2, and then the Browns are 2 and 3, and then the Steelers, they have their first win.
Oh, so the Bengals were still not that far out.
I guess. I mean, I guess technically speaking, you're right. Yeah. We're 3 games out.
We're just not that far.
Yeah.
It has not been pretty, for our Bengals. But what do you think, or what are you hearing in fantasy? What's the Browns' problem? And are you buying low on any of these Browns players right now, or are you just going to let it go by the wayside?
Their problem is, I think part of it is hubris, and I'll say that it's because they traded away valuable pieces of that offensive line in order to acquire Odell.
You think people would learn? I mean,
and it's just, and they thought that they could use their offensive firepower to just the weapons that they had in order to overcome that, and it's just not working out for them. I don't know what the play calling really doesn't seem to be suiting Baker Mayfield's abilities. I'm not seeing as many RPOs or quick runs or even quick passes that he was more comfortable with when he was still at Oklahoma.
I don't even notice him scrambling much. He's
scrambling, but it's
not in a good way.
These are not
running. He's running scared, I would call, more than scrambling.
Yeah, they're not designed rollouts. I mean, if you understand that the offensive line is your weakness, then play action design rollouts, they should be a part of your arsenal to account for that. And I mean, we've seen more Baker just doing those pump fakes and not really seeing what the defense is offering him. And before routes have the chance to develop, he's getting sacked. He's getting caught from behind. I mean, the fumble, I think on when Bosa caught up behind him on Monday night was just, it's just par for the course from what we've seen for the past couple of weeks. And I mean, even if I wanted to at this point, I have Odell in a couple of spots and I don't want to sell him. And even in the leagues where I don't have him, that's not a situation I want to buy into at this point, because it'd be one thing if the targets were there and there were just some misfires, or very similar to Lamar Jackson and Marquise Brown. I'm seeing the passes, I'm seeing just a few errant throws here and there, and I still believe that some of those passes are going to hit. And we'll see the same thing out of Marquise Brown that we saw out of week 1. But I just don't see the same return coming for Baker Mayfield and Odell like we saw the night when they played the Jets, when Odell went off for 9 for $140 and a touchdown somewhere along there.
Did he even get to $140? I didn't think he got that close.
The night that they played the Jets, I thought he got something fairly close to that. I actually got it pulled up right there. It was 10 for 161 and a touchdown against the Jets.
Last week, he just barely over 100, wasn't it?
No, he's had 47 total yards in the past 2 weeks.
Oh man! I mean, his
stat line the past 2 weeks is four receptions, 47 yards, and 0 touchdowns.
And for fantasy, that's not a good thing.
That would be suboptimal if you used a first round pick.
Well, I love that.
Yeah, if you used a first round pick on Odell Beckham, that you have not been liking.
Again, I always worry about tweets after games, but there were a lot of people that went into that game where they only needed 5 points out of Baker to win a week, and they negative.
I needed.
Actually, I think it was Ronas. I think Ronas said he had a league where he was actually winning by just 1.5 or something, and ended up losing because Baker got -2 or something like that. I mean,
in a work league, I was ahead by 8 points going into the Monday night game, and my opponent had Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham, and the Browns defense, and I won.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. We have a member in our league that went Brown heavy. He has Baker, he has Odell, and he has the running back, Chubb. And obviously that didn't pay off for him.
Yeah.
This week I offered, the word low ball or buy low, however you want to say it, but I offered a trade. He did not accept. And that's fine. I mean, if you think they're going to get better, don't accept those kind of trades. If you're sick and tired and you don't care if they get better, or you just think they're not going to get better, then 50 cents on the dollar is better than nothing on the dollar.
Right.
I have that argument all the time. You don't always believe that. I do. I'll sell low if I have to.
That's true. I mean, but I guess it depends. For me,
it always depends, Chris.
Sure, but I'm saying, but for me personally, it's harder for me to let go of an asset where that the talent is there. Whereas, let's say if this was, I don't know, if this was like a 4th, 5th, 6th round asset, like I'd be more willing to kind of deal in those sort of cases. But for somebody that we know what the ceiling is, and we actually saw the ceiling for Odell just a few weeks ago, it's hard for me to part ways on somebody where we know that is a player that can actually win you your week.
But what I do, I think where other people don't shop those kind of guys. They're like, no, I'm not going to sell low, so I'm not going to do anything. What I do, I don't wait for the shitty offers. What I do is I go look for the guys that I go, okay, if I'm going to sell low, this, like right now, I would take Gallup right now over Odell Beckham. Meaning, if my option was roll with Odell Beckham the rest of the season and hope the problem I have with Odell is it takes 2 to get it better. It takes Baker and Odell and the offense, meaning it's not just an Odell Beckham issue. It's not a health issue. It's not where, oh man, if he just comes back this week healthy, we're good. No, this isn't just a Beckham thing. So my point would be, yes, I would be getting, a number 2 on Dallas, but when he's healthy, he's actually getting more target. In a PPR, he's a machine target-wise.
Oh, sure.
And that's my point. Those are the kind of people I'm going to shop for. Somebody where I go, you know what? I'm going to gamble, meaning I'm going to hope Odell stays bad, and I'm going to hope Gallup goes off or keeps going off and stays healthy.
Yeah.
Are those not trades that you look for either? Meaning you don't.
I mean, now would be the time. Yeah, now would be the time that if you are in that situation, let's say, so it's week 5 going into week 6, and say you're sitting at like 2-3 or even 3-2.
Right.
I mean, I would be if you want to try and make a move now in order to be aggressive, I would go out to them and be active and try and make those trades right now, where it's just, okay, here's my line in the sand. If I wanted to move, let's say Odell, and let's say a target asset for you would be somebody like, let's say Larry Fitzgerald. If that's your target, go out and see if that's a trade that owner would be willing to do. I mean, and I don't think that's a problem. The problem I do see though is when people come at you when you know that those are low ball offers, and then you're just stuck with that. Well, I mean, if that's all I can get for them.
Which is, I agree. And I think you kind of agreed with me. That's why, as the owner of a few of these players, I go out and try to sell them rather than
I think that's the better approach.
The name you just said, I wouldn't take. I would not take Larry Fitzgerald right now.
Really?
Beckham. Because I don't think Larry Fitzgerald has the upside of a Gallup. I mean, there's a chance, or a Diggs. To me, Diggs is even a hair lower there, but there's a shot Diggs could do just as good as Odell Beckham if Odell Beckham gets the ship right. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think Larry Fitzgerald is going to do what Odell Beckham would do if he gets it right. So I'll gamble maybe a tad more. Now, Larry's floor might be a little higher.
Right.
But I'm not gambling for floor anymore because Odell's given me no floor. So I would look to buy the more, the guy that's, if things go well, I get Odell Beckham type numbers. I mean, that's the kind of guy, I'm kind of, looking at. And, or now that bye weeks are doing, I also might sell an Odell Beckham. And I'm trying to think other names. Just saying Odell, because there's a few, sell low type guys or try to save, some of your points type things. But I also might trade that person for a guy who already had his bye week, Kerryon Johnson.
Sure. Yeah.
Who the running or wide receiver for Detroit also. Who am I thinking?
Wait, the running back for Detroit is Kerryon Johnson.
No, the wide receiver.
Oh, the wide receiver, Kenny Galladay.
That's the kind of deal. Now, I don't think the Galladay guy is going to necessarily trade for Odell, but you might match something up and get him. Meaning, because of the way the bye weeks go, the extra week might, help me. So those are the kind of deals I'm going to look for. And if I don't get them, I don't get them, and I move on with Odell. But I'm looking for guys that, I'm going to gamble a little bit, I think.
Sure.
But, I'm not just going to sit there. But one I wouldn't gamble on right now would be Baker, which is also part of Odell problem. They have a tough schedule yet. They have, a bye week and 2 tough games. So they got 3 weeks,
Bye week at New England, at Denver, home to Buffalo, home to Pittsburgh.
See, that's all those are fairly good defenses.
Yeah.
I mean, defense
essentially, like his next possibility for a good game, at least the way that I'm looking at, if you think defenses matter, yada yada yada, is week 12. They're home to Miami in week 12.
Then I'm definitely looking to try to get something out of Odell. I know you're not going to get 100%, but if that's the schedule for the next 5 weeks,
time to move.
Yeah, I would agree. What about a Mixon? He's just okay. Is that, if we're looking now, where you're trying to maybe get a running back instead of a wide receiver? The Mixon person may be a little fed up too, even though I think he got 98 yards. He just missed 100 this week, but that's also obviously a team that doesn't look that good.
Yeah.
But I don't know, kind of scary. The next area I want to go, because multiple podcasts today, multiple shows on Sirius talking about the Kansas City backfield. And a lot of them are just saying, sell everybody. It's messed up. It's a bad thing. It's, and you're laughing, but I mean, more than a couple podcasts were talking about it. I'm not so sure yet. I don't think we've seen this backfield at 100% of what they thought they were going to have at the beginning of the season. So I'm not one to judge yet. And I still think Damian Williams, even after this week, could still be what we thought. I still think he could be the number one there and do okay. But there's a lot of people that are saying, no, you need to just sell all the Kansas City running backs before it gets too ugly there. Just because they think that the coaching staff has changed their way and they're going to use multiple running backs. What do you think there? I'm not sold on that we've seen their backfield the way they were hoping, and I'm willing to go another week or two and still see if Damian Williams doesn't come out of this the number one and possibly a top 12 RB for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, if after this week, I mean, we saw what Damian Williams' workload was coming out of this, where essentially Darwin Thompson, nothing. Darrell Williams, I think, came in very sparingly. The snaps were still there, but I think he only had maybe 2 touches total throughout the entire game. And then LaShawn McCoy lost a fumble. I mean, yeah, it really comes back to being Damian Williams' backfield again, and he's essentially just sharing it with LaShawn McCoy. So I think that that's where, I mean, if you held on to Damian Williams, great. And I think you have especially with the way that, because I believe the Chiefs just lost. Well, they didn't lose him for the season, but I think one of their offensive linemen just went down, so he might be out for another week or so. So I think that, I mean, if they want to keep passing, and that's, I think, one way that you can beat man coverage, with which a lot of teams have shown now is the best way in order to kind of stymie Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense, is using man coverage versus zone. But then one way to beat that is using running backs out of the backfield in order to, keep the linebackers from cheating up. Then, I mean, that's a possibility. And Damian Williams has shown to be serviceable in the passing game.
Yeah, I'm not. Well, and I'm not saying this because I've bought into Damian Williams early on, a lot, but at the same time, I'm not, that's one where I'm not selling low at this point or anything. I'm willing to ride. I think this is a ship that could get right pretty quickly and get right in the right direction.
Yeah. I agree.
And again, I'm still not even sold that McCoy is going to play a huge factor in it if Damian Williams is running the show. Meaning, if Damian Williams is kicking in and doing what he did the end of last year, I think McCoy just gets in for a handful of downs and that's it. So
we'll see. I mean, who knows how that backfield, or at least how the touch share will wind up like working out between the two of them. But I mean, if either way, since both of them are serviceable coming out of the backfield, I think either should be able to feast. And if like Damian Williams has had 2 weeks now to rest, LaShawn McCoy, he had the ankle injury 2 weeks ago. He seemed fine last week, but still, I mean, Williams comes in with the fresher legs. At the very least, over the next couple of weeks, we can see Williams having at least the larger workload, and then he should be able to capitalize on it, very much like LaShawn McCoy was able to capitalize on Damian Williams being out.
Right. All right. Week 5, while we're still on it, what's the big, what do you, what you see, what injuries? Again, I know I'll pull it up here in a second. I know we have a lot of people didn't practice again today. What was your big takeaway from week 5?
I think one of my bigger takeaways in week 5 is this whole, the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin thing down in Tampa, where I know that, I mean, Chris Godwin, I loved him coming out of Penn State. And you guys, like most folks that have followed me, know that I read much of what like Matt Harmon, reception perception, wide receiver guru. Like I read most of his stuff, and I understand Chris Godwin. I think he's a very, very talented wide receiver. But I'm still very much, I still very much think that Mike Evans is a good receiver. I'm not going to like plant a flag and say which one's better. But I think the hype train over the summer, where folks were saying that Chris Godwin's going to be the better receiver, yada, yada, yada. And then now we've gotten to the point where Godwin has been the beneficiary of, he's produced over the past couple of weeks, blew up Los Angeles, produced in when they played against New Orleans this past week. But I just wonder if we're getting into all the folks that are proclaiming Godwin is now the number one receiver in Tampa. I wonder if we're getting into a Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster type of situation that we had when they were both in Pittsburgh, where Mike Evans, who was shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore, got the James Bradbury treatment when they played against Carolina. I mean, and that's when he was sick actually too. But I mean, he's receiving a lot of this number one corner coverage. And Godwin is the one that's able to produce off of the secondary coverage that has the lesser players on it. So I'm wondering if a lot of what we're seeing right now is a function of that, and not to take anything away from Chris Godwin, because he went into the Los Angeles game with a bad hip. He had missed practice, limited in practice, and he was still able to do what he did out in the field. But before we just rush to say that Chris Godwin is now the new number one wide receiver in Tampa, I do wonder if that's also a function of Mike Evans taking away some of that coverage.
Right. I mean, that never hurts to have that kind of guy taking, other defenders away from you. Obviously Hopkins also, a lot of big wide receivers right now are having issues.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. Fuller was just open all day. That was another.
Yeah.
And that was the last thing I had. Actually, we're going pretty quick over my notes. So I'm going to have to slow down here a little bit. Obviously for fantasy wise, points were massive last week. A lot of record. I always make fun of, when I hear the word fantasy record breakers like that.
Yeah.
I've heard of scores in the mid 300s.
Cash line for DFS this past week was, easily it was over 200 points. If you didn't get to, 200
over
points.
200. Yeah. 200 just got you your money back in some.
Right. In tournaments, it was 310. I think the Millie Maker was just over, it was 310 points, went to the Millie Maker. So it's unless you were hitting big, you weren't cashing. But the funny part was that with all of those big time scores, they went to essentially wide receiver twos. It was Will Fuller, It was Chris Godwin.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Thomas was one of them, so we can give him that.
Right.
Julio Jones, like, did he score last week? I don't think so, because Calvin Ridley was taken.
McCaffrey was the running back that scored near 50 points in some of our leagues. The only thing I had, I streamed the Eagles defense in 3 of my 5 leagues.
I'm sure that worked well for you.
I actually lost in one of them because I had Julio Jones and Greg Olsen. I had like 3 people that got me a total of like 8 points, and then my defense got me 50, and I still got beat by like 30.
Gotcha.
Then obviously I had a league where the defense scoring 50 helped me win. I scored over 226 points in one league, and that was counting the fact that I had the Eagles and scored 52. This is a league where our defense does get extra. We start high, to begin with, but of those big wide receivers, are you worried about any of them, or is it just one of those things where the coaching staffs will just figure out what to do, or the defensive coordinators are going to just have to start playing? It's going to be hard to double, and then let Fuller go single, and some of that. So they're going to have to mix it up anyway, right? I mean,
that's what you would think. I mean, and especially for most of the guys that we talked about, like DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not worried about DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not worried about Julio Jones.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I have Julio Jones in 2 leagues, and you see that 0 or 0.1 or 0.5, whatever he gave you. It's like, man,
I would say for those 2 guys that we just mentioned, like Hopkins and Jones, like their situation is different than Odell Beckham's.
Yeah, or Evans. Evans, I worry more about than the other 2, but I still think Evans is the one there, but I do think Evans is number 2 is actually got a better shot at being a number 1 in another year or 2, maybe. But hey, but they're fun to watch. I mean,
for sure.
And I don't have any of them. Again, we've done this long enough. I'd rather have a number 1 on some teams. I don't end up with a lot of number 2s.
Right.
And obviously now, 1 week doesn't mean anything either. There's still a chance that, we can make fun if even Westbrook is a number 1, but they're still thrown to Westbrook 12 times a game, and all that. And I just would rather have a Westbrook, or at least I thought, draft day than Fuller. And don't get me, I'm not the only one that didn't draft Fuller. I mean, there's people picked up Fuller off of the waivers. So I mean, it's not uncommon sometimes for number 2s to not even be drafted. Hey, I mean, even in Cincinnati, Boyd, it was a number 2. He's obviously number 1 this year. But when he was a number 2 and AJ Green was healthy, he scored points.
True.
They're out there. Are you buying in on the 49ers? What do you think about the 49ers for both real football and for fantasy? I mean, their wide receivers aren't doing much, but the running game for fantasy, are you worried that there's 3 running backs back there, or do you think they can sustain supporting fantasy points for at least a couple of those running backs? And then just overall, real football, are you buying into the 49ers?
So far, yeah, because I think let me answer the first question first. From the running back side, it looks like they've condensed the running backs down to 2. It looked like it was Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida. I know that Raheem Mostert, he basically plays the Brandon Bolden role like that for the Patriots, because Mostert plays primarily on special teams. So he'll likely be active most days for the games, because he has a big role on special teams.
Right.
But I mean, with Tevin Coleman and Matt Breida taking on most of the role, I think we can at least understand what their roles are. And we kind of had an idea what their roles were when it was Breida, Mostert, and Jeff Wilson, where it was Breida starting, Mostert gets the passing down work, and Jeff Wilson comes in in the goal line, red zone type work. By the way, if it's just 2, I can get behind that. But the team as a whole, I can also get behind that, because it looks like we understand where they're trying to spread out the wide receivers. So it's not like I would take Deebo Samuel over Marquise Goodwin. The only one that I'm really not sold on anymore is Dante Pettis, even though I was high on him coming into the season.
Yeah, we both.
But yeah, I mean, but it really just comes down to, are you sold on Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, that's really the case. And even for all the points that they've been able to put up, they've been gifted a lot of short fields over the past couple of weeks. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo I think his touchdown to interception ratio is fairly high, but at the same time, I mean, his yardage totals are fairly low. So it's not like he's, popping off for 300 plus every week or anything like that, like Matt Ryan, but he is putting up some points. So we can he's taking care of the football much better than he was early in the season. So yeah, I'm buying in. I mean, especially if their defense is going to play the way that they have.
Yeah. I picked their defense up in 2 leagues this week, even though both those leagues I'm sitting okay. So I'm not worried about winning or losing. And they got a pretty good schedule. They played the Rams this week, and I think there's a shot they could do okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be a number 1 defense, but then after the Rams, they got a pretty good schedule.
Right.
So in most fantasy leagues, they're the top 3 defense right now. They're, especially if you're in a league where sacks, meaning if points against isn't a big thing and it's about sacks and turnovers,
right.
If they play a good team, they could get you a pretty good floor as a defense. So
yeah,
I'm really sold on the defense. Obviously, I was happy with the wave flag and pretend flag wave that we did to simulate that planting of the flag at the shoot.
Get over it. It was 2 years ago.
I don't care. You don't do that on the road.
2 years ago.
No,
I think Baker got the last laugh on that one, though, considering he told him it was funny that that had been on his mind for a couple of years.
That's fine. I don't care. I would wave that flag every time. Don't give me a heart.
Ohio State fans, y'all kill me.
I know. I love my Ohio State. People not practicing today. David Johnson, worried? Not worried.
Not worried yet, but at the same time, I still think that Chase Edmonds should be on your on your bench at the very least. He shouldn't be on anybody's waiver wire at this point.
Are you starting him if David Johnson? Is he an absolute starter if David Johnson does not play?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes. Where do you draw the line? Damian Williams. Are you starting Damian Williams or Edmonds?
Damian Williams for sure.
Okay. Even if David Johnson doesn't start, that's what I'm saying. So where's your line then? Because I right now, I guess I picture Damian Williams about running back 12 or 14. Where are you putting Edmonds if David Johnson doesn't play?
Well, hold on. I'm going to semi-cheat and just look at the list. But let's see.
I don't think you're going to have him as high as you would have David Johnson.
No, absolutely not. I would probably slot him in.
David Montgomery.
David Montgomery isn't playing this week. Chicago's on
that's right. He's on bye.
Let's say in the mid-20s, somewhere in there.
I think that far down.
Yeah, somewhere around Damian Williams right now. Well, Paulson has him as RB23. Let's see. I'd probably put him there somewhere around there.
They have a pretty good matchup too, right?
Mid-20s against Houston. Or no, I'm looking at the wrong team. I'm looking at KC.
They're playing the Falcons.
Yeah, they're playing the Falcons. Yeah.
Right. They haven't stopped much runners.
Yeah.
So
mid-20s.
I don't know. I guess I'm thinking getting him up more in the 15-ish range. That's why I thought Damian Williams.
That's Kerryon Johnson, Derrick Henry, Devonta Freeman.
And you're starting all of those over Edmonds.
Yeah, because for as much opportunity as you think you would see, Edmonds is still,
but he also catches the ball.
That's right, but he's not the same interior runner like David Johnson. Chase Edmonds is only $190.
Yeah, I know. And that's only if he had a big breakfast.
Right. So it's hard for me to think. It's not like if because Todd Gurley's not practicing. So that
was the next one.
Right. But it's if Todd Gurley doesn't play, I would feel comfortable at playing Darrell Henderson over most of those guys because Darrell Henderson.
I don't think Darrell Henderson backup. Isn't Malcolm Brown going to be his backup if he doesn't?
Yeah, but I'm saying if somebody were, I would take that guy over him or even Malcolm Brown.
Would you play Malcolm Brown? If they both don't play, are you playing Malcolm Brown over Edmonds?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think I would too.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey also missed practice.
Mm-hmm.
His backup's a little I think more questionable. I think he'll get some looks, but I don't think I definitely wouldn't start him over the other two guys.
No, but I think he deserves, like, I would say, like, flex, has some flex appeal if you're playing in a standard league.
Sammy Watkins didn't practice. Is that a problem? Or do you even care?
Not at this point. I mean, this is like the never ending story for Sammy Watkins.
Yeah. Mark Ingram didn't practice again, but is that an age thing in the middle of the season?
I'm assuming it's a maintenance thing. Yeah. I don't get too concerned about like vets not practicing until Thursday, like Delaney Walker, some of those older guys.
Right. Hunter Henry is practicing. Not sure we'll see him yet.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, to me, you got to pick him up off waivers. I mean, he was a very high draft pick at the beginning of the season if he's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Julian Edelman, they did say did practice.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Gordon practiced. Burkhead did practice.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Hill, we going to see him this week?
Don't know. I think because the one thing is, like, while he can obviously still run because it was shoulder that was still hurt, is he going to be cleared for contact? And I haven't seen anything to indicate he's been cleared for contact.
All right. Right. It does say that he did practice, but no contact yet.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questionable injuries that you want to? I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I don't see any others. Samuels, the backup in Pittsburgh, obviously. Does that help Connor now, or does it? Connor obviously is struggling too. Pittsburgh offense is struggling. I'm
not trying to invest in an offense that will probably be they'll be on their third quarterback of the season in only 5-6 weeks.
Yeah.
So
that was definitely ugly. That was
that was. I mean, when I saw it in real time because I was watching the game,
my daughter looked at me and said, "Dad, did we just see someone die?"
Yeah, when he got hit, you could see his eyes roll up. I mean, after the hit, like before he was knocked out before he hit the ground. It wasn't the ground that caused him to knock out.
I have seen that before.
Yeah.
But he didn't move for a long time.
Yeah,
a long time. And I always watch other players around more than I do them, and you can tell the other players are like,
when you see them like start like waving for the trainers, and
I've seen some of that bad for broken bones and things too, because they see it before we do. But it was just an ugly scene all around.
Yeah, that was not good.
All right,
having the training staff, I have to like carry him to the locker room.
That was horrible for the NFL.
But the funny part is that's not the first time that
player safety,
right? But like, remember,
drive on the field. You know what? Bullshit. Drive an ambulance out there if the guy needs an ambulance.
Well, remember last year when Ben Roethlisberger wound up exiting the game at halftime when they were playing at Heinz Stadium. And it was because he had to like go upstairs to their like shitty MRI machine and then come back downstairs, and he wound up missing, I want to say, like most of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And then by that time the game was so far out of hand, he wound up missing the rest of the game or something to that effect. I mean, there's just something going on at that stadium that I don't know.
Well, but again, I just think NFL in general,
Oh yeah.
If you need an ambulance, get an ambulance.
Yeah.
Period. Not a cart.
I mean, the league can't say they're all up on this league safety stuff, but then there's the standards at the different fields because they are franchises. There needs to be some sort of standard set where they have these minimum requirements.
Games, and especially like in college, he would have never gotten up off the ground without a board behind him.
He shouldn't have.
Right.
He was at practice today. Did you see that? Like he was like Mason Rudolph was at practice today.
Now that is the argument, though. Being knocked out isn't always as bad as some other things, like neck injuries and all that. Just because you got knocked out, really.
Dude, I mean, he was hospitalized 3 days ago.
I know, but
like, take some time off, bro. Just go home.
Oh, he looked bad too. That
was
He didn't even know he was in a fight.
Yeah.
All right. With the bye weeks, I like to, we've started adding here the last few weeks. I want to talk to your quarterback streamers. I've been doing that article, 4 for 4. I getting my $29 worth reading your article. And I'm not even okay. Again, we make no money to do this. I also, and I don't know if you do it or not. I bought into the, dang it, The Athletic.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I went ahead. I've been reading some of their free stuff, and I finally bought into that. You know what? A very good article. A lot of good writers there. I'm just letting you know. I enjoyed their stuff too now. So I am trying to get more. I'm trying to get more in depth, more cultural. When it comes,
they have really good stuff for it. That's the goal.
But again, it's nothing compared to my Chris Allen 4 for 4 streaming quarterback article.
I would say that's a personal goal of mine, to be able to write for The Athletic at some point.
You're writing for me, and I'm athletic sometimes.
There we go. So I'm halfway there.
Yes. Who are you streaming this week, Chris? Who do you like?
We already talked about Kyle Allen. I mean, if the Tampa Bay is essentially turned back into that pass funnel defense that we were hoping, like we saw last year. So, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater just like tagged them for 300 plus yards, 4 touchdowns, or just short of 304. I mean, in the previous week, who did they play in the previous week? Was that when they played Los Angeles? Yeah, I believe it was when they played Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. And Jared Goff went for 500 yards. So yeah, I mean, the past couple of weeks they've shown us that, I mean, they're stout up front. I think they've allowed just short of 200 yards rushing, or just slightly over 200 yards rushing, but over 1,000 yards passing in the past 3 weeks. Not even kidding. So
we're a serious show here, Chris. We're not going to kid.
But when I say 1,000 yards, I'm not being this is not hyperbole.
Right, it's the truth.
Yeah, that's the actual truth. But either way,
actual truth.
Yeah,
not the fake truth. This is the actual truth,
right? But at the same time, Kyle Allen hasn't looked all that great. But for context, I mean, they played against Houston. Houston has some pretty good edge rushers,
right?
They can generate some good pressure, and his problem has been fumbles. I think he's fumbled multiple times in the past 3 weeks. So the hope is that he can work on his ball security. But either way, I mean, with the way that DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel has been playing, and hopefully Greg Olsen can get back in the action. I think he's only had maybe 4 targets the past 2 weeks. There's some hope that they
have done nothing against tight ends either. They're the worst team against tight ends.
Right. I mean, last week Jared Cook finally got a touchdown. So I mean, there's some hope that the tight ends can that Greg Olsen can get back in on the action. And also with this
I own 4 tight ends league. I did flip Olsen in a trade today where the guy had the tight end for the Giants, and obviously going now. And hey, I'm not going to say that I got more from Olsen than maybe I should have, but it's a good matchup. The guy needs to win this week, and I sold it. I mean, and worked the deal. All right, next streamer then. Where else are you headed?
Let's see. Who else did I have on there? I mean, I know Kirk Cousins I had there as a deeper play. But the issue, I mean, so you've got there's 2 sides to this coin, because there's one side where 2 weeks ago Devontae Adams just lit them up for 180 yards, and that was great. But on the other side, we just saw Luke Falk just get absolutely mashed.
But a different quarterback.
Well, yeah, a completely different quarterback. Yeah. So, and we know that Kirk Cousins can be either one of those 2 quarterbacks.
And any given day.
So it doesn't matter. So that's why I put him as a deeper play, because we can see him turning over the ball a bunch of times. We can also see him, being that highlight quarterback that we saw parts of last year and when he was still with Washington.
Right.
So it could go either way.
Right.
And then the same thing and also I do like Teddy Bridgewater this week. I mean, I know they're playing against Jacksonville, and if Jalen Ramsey plays, I'm less excited about the matchup, because he came back to practice in a limited fashion this week. So if Jalen Ramsey plays,
I wasn't going to probably play, but yes, he did practice limited today.
Yeah, so if he plays, I'm less on it. If he doesn't, then I mean, Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. I mean, because we saw what Christian McCaffrey did to. I mean, so there's a number of avenues that Teddy Bridgewater can wind up actually succeeding this week.
Right. All right. Yeah, I'm in a tough situation in my Superflex league. And again, we've had this discussion before. This league's weird because you can only roster 2 quarterbacks, and I have Brissett, who's obviously on a bye. So I could cut him, and right now my best option would probably be Allen. The problem is I'm concerned I wouldn't get Brissett back, and Brissett has a pretty weak schedule coming up. And I'm not sure if Allen's even going to be the quarterback in a couple of weeks.
Right.
So I'm kind of stuck. it is a super flex, so I'm stuck where do I go without a quarterback in that spot? I am 3-2. Probably a loss isn't going to kill me, but obviously I also don't want to lose.
Yeah.
Really comes down to the way my lineup is. Would I start Kerryon Johnson in my super flex, or do I drop Brissett, pick up Allen, and then hope I get Brissett back? Or I do have Cam Newton on my IR if he comes back in a week or two. But so I'm kind of in a weird situation because of the weird league rule we have. But the key is Kerryon Johnson going to get me 15 or 16 points, which to me should be Allen should maybe get me 20. You know what I'm saying? So it's not that, do you gamble for 3 or 4 points and maybe not get your quarterback back? I really don't know. I haven't made the decision yet. Okay. But I like that Allen could get 30 points.
Possible, yeah.
Johnson could get 10. So it could be, most experts will always tell you to always play a quarterback in that super flex spot if you can.
Right. Yeah.
Like I said, I am projected, to win the way I have it set up right now without a quarterback there. But
sure,
it's always, again, the fun. I like rules like. There's other people think it's stupid. Rules like that make you have to think once in a while. They make you have to maybe drop a quarterback that you wouldn't have done if the rule was you can have as many quarterbacks as you want, or and in those leagues, there's no quarterbacks to pick up. Meaning, if somebody was hurt and and somebody else was on bye, you just didn't have a quarterback either.
So
at least here you have some options. But I think my best option out there, because Teddy Bridgewater got picked up and Kirk Cousins got picked up, my best option right now is Allen. Jets. He's back now. Do you like him this week? Darnold, right. The key with Darnold is he's got a pretty soft schedule coming up, meaning if I flip for him this week over Allen, I really don't like him this week coming off an injury. But at the same time, if I got stuck with one for the next 4 or 5 weeks, I might rather have Darnold than Allen. But I don't know. Back same thing. Or can Kerryon Johnson just get me as many points as either one of them, and I really don't have to.
I think it's possible.
I'll just have Brissett next week. The nice thing, Brissett's then bye is over. I don't have to worry about my quarterback having another bye until Aaron Rodgers has his in the 11th week. So
right.
And Aaron Rodgers isn't doing a whole lot for me. But,
not really.
Yeah, but he does have. The nice thing is he's not ever going to get you, I don't think, -2 like Baker. I mean,
that's true.
He's going to get you 15. You draft him to get you 30, but he's going to get you 15. So. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Like I said, I'm just excited about 9:30. I love getting up 9 o'clock. I get up before that, but I just know when at 9 o'clock you can turn on the TV and start at 9:30 until 11 o'clock at night. You're going to watch football. I mean,
right.
I just love that. I know. I mean, not that I don't do a lot on Sundays when there's football anyway. I mean, I pretty much cook and do my sit start show and I watch football, but watching football at 9:30, it's fun. And you watch the Game Pass, right? Do you do the short version of the game? Do you watch the whole game, or do you just watch
versions? Yeah, I'll normally because I'll watch throughout the day, like the stuff that's on the local channels. So normally I wind up watching the Bengals or the Ravens games or whatever, right. And then whatever after at least one of the afternoon games and the primetime games. But then on Mondays and Tuesdays, as I'm writing my articles that come out on Tuesday, I'll normally try and scan through 2 or 3 of the condensed versions of the games that I didn't get a chance to watch that were maybe on the West Coast or something like that, just so I can have a better context for writing some of those articles, because sometimes I just need to see it. Right. Like some of the data that I use in order to put together my articles, all that stuff gets uploaded like Monday night or Tuesday morning or whatever. But if I need some more context, I'll always have Game Pass that I can go to and just watch the games, see how the players actually like played out on the field before I go and just check the spreadsheets.
Yeah. I've tried the, I'll say 7-day pass twice,
and
I
love it. I absolutely love it.
People do, but then because I just struggle with watching sports where I know the score. It's like I'm only watching to watch the players, which
Yeah.
why you do that for
Yeah.
fantasy, but the game part. Now, again, I have the Sunday ticket, so I'm watching 3 and 4 games live, but at the same time, I'm not watching them. You know, I mean, they're on, and I have, the 6 TVs going, and and maybe 6 different games on, but I'm, when big plays happen, I watch, but I'm not watching every part of the game. So
some of them I do, because like for the Tampa Rams game, I had to go back and watch that one because after I saw the score, I was like, "How the hell did we get here? Like, what happened in that game?"
You work it backwards, kind of. Then,
yeah, because like when you see a game like that and there's like 95 points scored, I was like, I have to go back and watch this one because what the hell happened here?
And you can do the compressing. And there's something about that. There's something about that. The plays ended and the next one's starting, and I didn't have time.
It's just let's go.
I'm mentally challenged then because I'm like, wait, give me a second to figure out what just happened. Give me a second to go, okay, I bet they're going to do this next. Nope. They're just lining up and going. I'm like, that didn't give me, I didn't have any.
Sometimes I'll pause to check and see like who's on the field, what alignment they're in, who's playing in the slot, like all that stuff. But other than that, let's go. Cause I want to see.
And, hey, again, I'm not here to sell anything, but I think that's about $100, right? And then
$100.
$100 bill gets you the pass and
all the games, condensed version.
I mean, the Sunday ticket is separate from this. This is all
right. Yeah.
How soon after the game ends can you watch it on there?
I know for a fact because Chris Harris uses it for his Monday show, so those games have to be uploaded. I mean, either late.
The game ends, and it could be. You could watch it, maybe.
Yeah, because they have the broadcast version that's already on there, and then they probably just run through and like cut out all the commercials and stuff like that to do the condensed version.
It on the fly. I mean, it's NFL.
Yeah.
They have,
and then the coaches tape
works. They can't afford a little cart that works in Pittsburgh, but they probably have somebody that's like, hey, I'm just going to edit as we watch it.
Yeah, the coaches tape might take a day or so in order to get uploaded, but like the condensed versions, you could probably that stuff is. I mean, for Harris's Monday show where he's reviewing all the tape. Yeah, that stuff has to be done like either late Sunday, early Monday morning for him to review all that.
Well, I would tell our fans, people listen, they do give you 7 days to try it. Now, like
it's well worth it.
It is one of those where you have to give a credit card. And I've always said, if you do it on a Sunday morning, you can get 2 weekends worth roughly.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, if you plan it out right. Yeah.
So, it gives you enough to at least test it and decide if you like it or not. Yeah. All right, Chris, where can people find your work?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX. Find my work over at 4for4 and also over at Number Fire.
All right. I'm just Easy Kill at a Fantasy Fan. And you can find me on the Sportscrew Radio Network, the sportscrew.com. Chris, I will see you next Wednesday. Again, I have a sit-start show with Lou Landers on Sunday morning and football Sunday morning. So I'm pretty excited. I guess that's it. We will see you next week. Enjoy your football. Woo! Say goodnight, Chris.
Good night.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say goodnight. Good night.